Ladies and gentlemen, big terror news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Chewy. How are you, love?
Kia ora, Pat. I remain a free man. Wasn't arrested by the cops a couple of hours ago, so that was good.
I just put you back in your position of importance. You have to at least be one above the dog. You can't be below the dog. That wouldn't work out, would it? So, yes, I know everyone in the chat straight away. The dog is here. Hello, dog. Dog is here.
Joggo.
Yes, hello. I'm talking about you. Cool, man. Me and Chewy, we met each other this afternoon. We've never met before in real life. No. We were talking before the show started, and we just thought Chewy's got some stories to tell about seeing that Canadian French MP in town at the moment. And I said, nope. Keep me dry.
Don't tell me anything.
Don't tell me anything. Don't tell me anything. I don't want to know. Don't want to know. Tonight, though, we are going to have a look at the. It's fascinating in America, showing the fragility of the political system, especially when you tell society for 5 years how you must get into power to be able to do something, and then you get into power. And for reasons not yet fully known, although Elon Musk gave us a bit of a clue, you don't do said things. Of course, we are talking about the Epstein file, release the file, pretty soon after they got in and Dan Bongino and Kash Patel got appointed to their FBI positions. There was nothing to see here. And now apparently there's no list, but there's no list whatsoever now. So I've got a bunch of stuff to show from both CNN, I'm pinching some stuff from the Majority Report, who just looked at some stuff for us, and just to have a look at a bit of a synopsis of what's going on. Also, Chlöe Swarbrick was on with Nicole McKee today on
That's a mismatch.
Big Herald News, talking about a couple of things. They were talking about are we going to reinvent the moa bird or reanimate or whatever? I'm not interested. I mean, I think it was one of the points Chlöe made was, do we really need to have something else to focus on? There's a lot going on in the world at the moment. But also a conversation about bias and TVNZ. And then it wrapped up with Nicole McKee confirming that David Seymour should listen to the first round of submissions from the Regulatory Standards Bill. You know, the one that came back out of 23,076 were on his side, and the rest either had no comment or were not. Well, Nicole McKee today, she doesn't realise she said this, Chewy. Let me make that clear. But what she said in an answer was, we should listen to the submitters from the first Regulatory Standards Bill. So I'll explain more about that when we do it. And also the OCR. I didn't get a chance to get down and hang out with Chewy at the I'm going to call it the Dimension. What's the name of that? Distinction. The dementia ward where David Seymour was at the
funny you should say that. Judging by the people that were coming out of that meeting, maybe it might be the Dementia Hotel. Who knows?
Yeah.
Whoa, good stories.
Because I was putting together Craig Rennie's podcast for Thursday morning. Now, in Craig Rennie's podcast for Thursday morning, he's talking to Clint Smith, and they're talking about the Family Boost Project. But at the end of the conversation, as Craig was wrapping up, he talked about today's OCR result. The government, Nicola Willis is kind of going around, yay for us at the moment. Not quite. There is some amount of, we need to be cautious, but really they're taking it positively. Both Treasury and the Reserve Bank have basically predicted bad times on the way. And so I've got a little clip from Craig's podcast. In fact, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll have already seen it because I put it out on Twitter, just to bring us back to reality as to what this whole OCR conversation actually means. And yes, of course, the dog is there. Nala, are you going to stay with us
Hey,
tonight?
dog.
All right, she's ready to go to sleep, so we'll give her a bit of a break for a while. So Chlöe, I know nothing about your story. Maybe we should get to that one first because everyone's waiting in case, like, for example, the police jump through your window because they've just found out where you are because of the live stream. You have to, at the very least, have shared your story about what's going on tonight. But before we do that, a little reminder for the whānau. Tomorrow night there is a family meeting. Thursday night here on Big Hero News, there will be a family meeting that we are looking at the next 18 months. Just to let you kind of know what's going on, we're going to tell you about what we sort of want to do and how you can be involved or not and where we're going. It's a little bit like, so you know how we always talk about the mayors of each city, and we go, the mayors could go to the ratepayers, hey guys, you have a choice here. You can either choose to elect someone who's going to lift your rates but take care of the pipes, or choose to elect someone who doesn't and the pipes will deteriorate. There's sort of a little bit of that vibe. We're going to put some of the choices back in your hands to see how and what you want to support moving forward. That will give us the ability to do various things over the next 18 months. And also, just as a reminder, the merch store is always open. I know I've been talking about big BHN merch in itself, the old classic red on black, red on white. We're still trying to, I'm not going to tell you that. Long story short is there's still one little glitch in the system stopping us doing that, but I'm working on it. And as soon as we can, we'll bring those back for probably a limited time, because the branding of the whole thing may change as well with our movement forward. We'll see. But that BHN there. And that just lends me to, can I tell a little story first, Joey, from today? Little story?
Sure.
Walking into the supermarket today, as I was walking into the supermarket, gentleman was walking out of the supermarket and he had the black BHN hoodie on. And I just looked
That's good,
over.
right?
I just looked over and I said, oh, I like your sweatshirt. And I kept on walking in. And then I heard as I was walking through the doors, can I have a selfie? And I was like, yeah, of course you can. So I went back, had a bit of a catch up. And so I wanted to say hello to Kent. It's one of those really strange things, actually. Kent will be a bit the same. Be like, isn't that weird? Because Kent is from the mighty Wakatu, the Waikato, and he was only down here for a couple of days, bringing his daughter down to look at university for next year. And so he was in town for 2 or 3 days. It happened to be in Dunedin, so he thought he'd better wear his big HN gear. And he was here, we ran into one another. So a big hello to Kent and to his daughter, who was looking to come to the University of Otago next year. Here's my little story for today, Chlöe. It's not quite as impressive as your little story, because I think yours has got an AV show that goes with it, doesn't it? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, yes, it does.
So you let me know when you want me to bring that up, and you tell us all about what happened today with Mr. Seymour.
Cool. Okay, so we found out that David Seymour was coming to Dunedin last week. Roughly, he was coming here for an ACT Party meeting, meet or greet, public meeting. It was described as on his website. So, like any firm believer in the ACT Party policies, I RSVP'd to that meeting.
And I'm assuming you used your name. You didn't write Chlöe.
No, I put my actual human name.
That your mother doesn't
down
even
on
call
that.
you, just so we know.
No, my mum doesn't call me that anymore because nobody knows who she's talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, my initial plan was, man, it'd be fun to be in that meeting, just to see who goes to an ACT Party meeting, and maybe cause a little bit of ruckus. So I was quite surprised when I received a phone call this afternoon saying that due to unprecedented demand, it was no longer a public meeting, it was a meeting for ACT Party members. So would I like to join? Would I like to join the party?
ACT? Man, join the ACT Party to get into it. There's a way to build your, like, there we go. Okay, be a subscriber to watch the show.
Yep.
Funny.
And I considered it for about half a nanosecond and then went, there's no fucking way I'm giving the ACT Party any money. So I said, no, I'd still like to come. And they went, no, I'm sorry, you can't. Now, this is because the cat was out of the bag that local groups had noticed that he was coming to Dunedin,
Of
and they
course.
knew that there were going to be protesters. So I turned up a little bit before 6 at the Distinction Hotel here in Dunedin. I wasn't, unfortunately, there for his arrival. I don't know when he turned up. I wasn't there for the majority of the people at that meeting going inside, but we were down there from about 6 to about 7:30, 8 o'clock. There was a reasonably beefy police presence, and the ODT and myself would estimate this crowd at about 100. Most of the police were quite good. I had a little chat to a sergeant towards the end of it.
Did the sergeant ask you to sign his BHN gear?
What he did, he made a beeline for me, and because I obviously had my megaphone, and he was making a beeline for me.
The foo-foo
And I was
phone.
like, oh shit. Yeah, the foo-foo phone. I'm like, I'm in trouble here. And he walked up to me, he just leans forward, he goes, "You're doing some good chants. You should do more."
Did he really?
Yes, I was very surprised. Now, like you'll see in this clip that you put up, I think you play it, that some of the cops there were not there for the de-escalation, shall we say, but luckily saner heads prevailed, and it was just like, look, it's a protest, just let them do what they want to do.
So was he just having a bit of fun, sort of making himself relatable to you, perhaps, by saying something like that? Because then, if anything else happened, he was already a human being to you. Was that kind of a tactic, do you think?
Well, I wonder if he was circling in on the fact that one of the things that I was saying through my megaphone was, my foo-foo phone, was that the Deputy Prime Minister that was inside of that hotel was part of the government that was denying the police pay increase claims. That they don't think you're worth paying.
They are literally defunding the police. Literally.
Yeah, absolutely. And that maybe they should be on the side of the people and not on the side of the government in this case. So I think maybe that hit home on a very cold Dunedin night.
Yeah.
That they probably didn't need to be out and about for. The other thing that was quite notable is as that meeting wrapped up and the people that were at the meeting were leaving, it was exactly who you would think would be at an ACT Party meeting. Old white people.
Yeah.
And by Christ, they weren't happy to see us. A man offered to fight me.
No.
He did. He said he was going to cram that megaphone down my throat, and his wife had to drag him away.
Oh,
now, what set him off? What really got under his fucking skin, Pat? What do you think that was? I asked the question.
Treaty? Honor the treaty?
Treaty was certainly a button issue that set many of them off. But this particular man, the question that I asked was, did David Seymour explain why he sheltered Tim Jago for as long as he did? Why are you supporting a party that protects a pedophile? Well, they didn't like that at all. So I told several other people the same thing. But yeah, it's they didn't like the treaty. Someone had to go at a woman carrying a honor the treaty sign. It's exactly who you think of. But there were 100 people out there in the cold Dunedin wind standing up for a whole range of things. And it was all about people's rights, about our democracy, about what New Zealand should be doing about various issues overseas. And what they were standing up for inside that room was themselves. What can I get? What puts me above everybody else?
Yeah.
And that it was just so clear that they did not like being seen coming out of this meeting. They did not like that there were people challenging their views. And they reacted with the weirdest reactions, ranging from aggression to coming up to me and trying to be really clever about something and then just completely forgetting their train of thought when I said, "I'm sorry, what?" It was weird. We didn't see David Seymour. He stayed inside that hotel or snuck out the back way or whatever. So, of course, you know, the free exchange of ideas in the marketplace of free speech didn't happen. It's surprising that. But yeah, 70 people at that meeting, 100 people outside protesting.
Should we have a look at some of the footage? If there's anything you want to highlight
absolutely.
about what was happening, go for it.
I need you to step back onto the footpath area, please. Anyone
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough. We heard it. Yep.
It does sound a little bit like they're saying Pooh Street, just quietly. Some enunciation. It does sound like they're saying Pooh Street, our street, Pooh Street, our street. I know
A little bit of the behind the scenes on that, right? So
Yeah.
this is Bond Street in Dunedin.
Yep.
And part of Bond Street has been turned into, I guess, kind of like a drive-through area for guests of the hotel dropping off and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it is on Google Maps as a public street.
So the road that goes between the car park and the hotel is actually because it does say no thoroughfare there. I didn't realize that was a public street.
But on Google Maps, it's a street. It's still Bond Street.
Okay.
So one of the things when people assembled is that you can't be right in front of the door. The hotel manager doesn't want you in front of the door. So the idea was that we were going to walk through that area, just backwards and forwards. We weren't going to assemble. We were just going to transit that area.
Yeah.
And then the police went, no, we're not doing that. And that's when things got a little bit pushy because they weren't trying to de-escalate. They were trying to push us back onto the footpath.
All right, we'll keep going.
Pooh Street! Our street! 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 Pooh Street! Our street!
It does look like, as far as protest goes that we've seen over the last week, while internationally and here, it does look like quite a polite pushing through there, doesn't it? Just not quite going all the way.
Nobody got out of control. I don't think it benefited anybody to be hauled away in a paddy van, but by the same token, we weren't going to get pushed onto, say, the other side of the street.
Yeah. Here we go.
Free! Free! Palestine! Free! Free!
So what's happened here? Why are you let through now?
I think that might be slightly earlier.
Okay.
Because we went backwards and forwards like that probably about 3 or 4 times.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free. People welcome here.
Hey!
Oh, who's that? Who's that?
Hey! There's the foo-foo phone in full effect. I get the sense we have to have a thumbnail there. Look at that. Look at the wee fella. Look at the wee fella. So what you're
I
being
love
known
having
as
a megaphone.
every time foo-foo phone. Every time there's a protest, Chlöe gets on the news. That just seems to be how it is.
As you can see, pretty brutal on the weather front down there. It is cold. We rattled through some of the greatest hits of chants there, but I think my favourite is when it got quiet. Me just yelling through a microphone going, David, was also very effective. So yeah, like if you've never been to a protest, like do. Because I mean, I've come out of this just buzzing. It is one of the things to do this every night, to come together as we do here, the BHN community, and sort of go, shit's fucked, we want to make it better. And then you're just in your house with that feeling. I think it's a completely different thing to go down to something like this and do something and stand, like put your face, put your body there and say, look, I believe in these things. I stand against what this guy wants to talk about. Mm-hmm. It's what we've talked about when things seem like really bleak and overwhelming, is just fucking do something. Like, I don't think we're not going to win over anybody that went into that meeting. I can tell you that much. But for everybody that was there, they felt more connected to their community. They felt less alone in what they believed in.
Yep.
So if you've
like
never been to a protest,
a physical
just
impartation, of what we do in the evenings, and we saw that when we were in Auckland with the meetup, people actually going, "Oh, it's nice to meet everyone." You know, the whole finding each other's in the neighbourhood. And it's a literal version of that for people standing against what this government's doing. Good on you, bro. Very cool.
Henry here was there as well, and look,
Right.
that's the thing. You can vent online as much as you like, but do it in the meat space in the real world. I feel heaps better.
Kiwi Bird says, I'm happy to fight ACT members for charity, or even not for charity. Just anyway. Arvid says, can I get an ooh, David?
We got some ooh Davids in there.
Oh, there's one more. Just popped in. Chewy for mayor. Go the foo-foo phone. There you go. Going to get involved in local body politics, Chewy.
I'll be honest, I have been tempted, and then every time it comes up, a voice in my head goes, yes, a middle-aged white person with opinions. That's what local body politics needs.
All right. Well done, sir.
Yeah.
You carried us, all of us, with you in your heart. Lovely, lovely. All right, maybe we'll start moving into the show, shall we? Let's start with kind of what was leading both newses tonight, I think, and that is the OCR, and also what 3 News did quite well is then say, what does this mean for the cost of living? So there's sort of 2 stories in one here, which we'll have a look at. There's actually more than that because it goes 8.5 minutes. We're just going to watch the first part of it. And then we'll bring you some analysis from Craig Rennie. We're stealing a little bit of analysis from his Thursday morning show, so you get a bit of a sneak peek.
The Reserve Bank has hit the pause button, keeping the official cash rate at 3.25%. It ends a run of 6 consecutive cuts to the benchmark lending rate, with the central bank today citing concerns about global uncertainty and rising inflation. As political correspondent Zane Small reports, the cost of living continues to bite despite lower interest rates, and the government is under pressure to deliver relief.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Were you at this one as well? Because it seems that
I
you're.
do not believe that I am.
Okay,
There.
just checking.
We won't take it anymore. 5, 6, 7, 8. Farm negotiate.
Union members of the government's drug-buying agency Pharmac protesting today in Wellington over a 0.2% pay offer.
The pay offer is
Fucking
totally unacceptable.
0.2.
The hard work that they do, it's just
What is that?
Just say
0.2%.
no pay rise. That 0.2 is worse than nothing.
So $70,000 times 0.2. So times 0.2 equals. No, that's not right. Oh, no, because it's a percentage. Sorry, so it's 70,000. This is me doing maths. I was doing it times, so it'll be 0.002 because that's the percentage. It's $140
A year.
Yeah,
$147 a year.
yeah.
So like half a grocery shop for a family of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
People are saying 700
Fuck
a year.
that. I burned the place down.
So maybe my maths is out. But even so, but someone said 700 a year. 700 a year will be 1%, wouldn't it, of 70,000? Yeah, work it out that way. 70,000, 10% would be 7,000. So therefore 1% would be 700. Yeah. So a fifth of 700. Yeah. So 140-ish, 150, 180 a year. $3 a week. Well done. And they fought for that so hard and so long, Julie, and they got their $3 a week. Hey, they should be grateful. They should be.
just, insulting what they have put up, and the
Yeah.
callbacks to their step system, which, leaves them worse off, in years to come.
The union says Pharmac is underfunded by the government and workers are paying the price. The cost of living continuing to bite as inflation ticks up again.
Their pay rates have not kept up with the cost of living, and that's what we're here to, that's what we've been trying to negotiate, a decent cost of living increase.
New Zealand has been in a significant deficit. We've taken on a huge amount of debt.
Interesting that she says this, right? Well, we agree. We've taken on a huge amount of debt. Do you know what she didn't say? She didn't say that we be due to the previous government. It's almost like she's owning it now. I don't know why she doesn't say what she normally says. It should be wrong, but all she says was taking on a huge amount of debt. And remember, last budget, they weren't borrowing for anything.
Yeah.
So but I don't know whether she missed her regular due to the financial decision made from the last government or not, but she just says a huge amount of debt. And it's like, that's true. You have.
You did
What
that.
am I missing here? Hang on. This feels like it's 4D chess all of a sudden. You're like going, and she's about to come for the kill, but it doesn't ever seem to come.
Has been in a significant deficit. We've taken on a huge amount of debt, and like many employers, we're now in a situation where we need to be careful about the pay increases that we offer.
The rising cost of living, part of the Reserve Bank's decision today to keep the official cash rate at 3.25%, following 6 consecutive cuts that led to lower mortgage interest rates.
I think we're getting towards the bottom of the interest rate cycle. So for people who have been banking on very large further reductions in interest rates, I think there's a risk that they could be disappointed.
The Reserve Bank today cited concerns about rising price inflation and uncertainty in the global outlook. But there is still significant spare capacity in the New Zealand economy. So, subject to inflation pressures easing, the central bank is projecting another cut to the benchmark lending rate in August. Westpac research shows that average household incomes after tax have stagnated, with softness in the job market. And while income growth has stalled, inflation is picking up again. Food prices, for example, increased 4.4% in the 12 months to May.
The government does absolutely not.
So food's increased 4.4% and they're being offered a 0.2% pay increase. Just think about that. I mean, at the very least, if your pay increase is not what inflation is, at the very least you're going backwards. So if inflation's 2.6, 2.8, and they're offering you 0.2, then you are real world going way backwards.
Yeah.
Addressing the cost of living crisis.
Are you confident that you've done enough to meet your promise of reducing pressure on the cost of living?
I remain concerned about the cost of living. It's a driving objective for this government to address it, and we know that that will continue to take time.
Right now, we are still seeing a lot of pressure on a lot of households' balance sheet. Income growth has been very sluggish for about a year now. But I think we are starting to see signs that things are picking up, especially in parts of the country that are closely linked to.
It's a very interesting analysis because I'm about to show you a graph from the graph master Craig Rennie, and that's not what the economy is showing. It's not showing that that it's picking up. And I'll give you the receipts shortly.
Our rural sector, especially the dairying sector.
And I am seeing signs of growth across our economy, which is good news for households, businesses, communities who need that relief and need the positive effects that growth brings in terms of income relief and cost of living relief.
Just what these protesters are waiting for.
Well, OK, Zane, how is the government planning to ease the cost of living?
Yeah, there we go. Listen to this bit.
Well, on food prices, the Finance Minister said she'll soon be meeting with the Chief Executive of Fonterra to get an understanding of why the price of dairy products like butter, for example, are so high. Dairy prices are largely driven by export demand, and right now there is a lot of demand for New Zealand dairy products.
I'm pretty sure the One News report on this said they actually had commentary from her saying why you can see cheaper Fonterra products in Australia or the UK, which is what we've been saying for a long time. And we have a solution for that. So I hope you people out there who know Nikki No Boats personally, and there's a lot of you, have been passing on our suggestion. If you've forgotten what that is, we'll tell you at the end of the item.
Overseas, so prices have gone up. But Nicola Willis says she wants to get an understanding of whether there are other reasons behind it, such as lack of supermarket competition.
Greed. Just another, greed.
She said she also wants to find out why dairy prices in New Zealand are often more expensive than in other parts of the world. It's also worth noting that despite lots of interest rate cuts, not all mortgage holders have yet refixed onto lower rates. I'm told that close to half of all fixed mortgages are up for refixing in the next 6 months. So the Finance Minister says that should bring some cost of living relief.
All right. So this is the idea that we've been bouncing around here on the show to do with Fonterra. Any business. And look, Labour, Greens, Te Pāti Māori, if you're listening, you're welcome to steal it. If you're a company that exports more than you sell inside New Zealand, then there should be a price freeze, price set for New Zealand goods. And it's simply because you, Fonterra, there's no such thing as a self-made man. That's a nonsense statement. There is no such thing as a self-made company. You drive on the roads that we all supply. You use the health system that we all pay for. You went to the schools that we all paid for. One of the reasons you can be a successful farmer or business person or Fonterra company is based on the public money that this country has put into you over the ages. Apologies about the camera. I was doing this afternoon. I'm not sure what's going on. And so I think that should be, you are as successful as you are in part because of the investment of this country through our finances, we should be somewhat like a shareholder and we should see something back for that. I think that's quite a fair position.
Yeah.
I'm not saying run at a loss. I'm not saying even break even, but we are in part shareholders to your success. And I think we need to see an upside for that, especially an upside compared to an international port where your product literally lands and then gets moved around on streets other people have paid for and goes into those supermarkets that keep the profits in other communities. That's all I would say, Joey.
Like there's lots of she's having a meeting with Fonterra. That's one aspect. Like it seems to me grossly unfair that New Zealand is paying export prices.
Of course.
And paying more than what is commonly seen, regularly seen in other markets. As she's talking to the supermarkets, she's putting pressure on the supermarket duopoly in this country and saying, hey, look, we need to take some heat out of the cost of living and food is what's doing it. And you guys are turning off a massive profit.
Yeah.
And you either need to do something or the government will. Now, of course, they won't do that because they believe in the free market. But the free market is fucking us over and it's putting pressure on them. They can't get away with the 0.02% or 2% pay increases. That won't fly. That is just a short jump from taking their slogan from the last election, let's get New Zealand back on track, to let's take New Zealand's pay backwards. Because that's what they're doing. If companies can't keep up with this or the public sector can't keep up with this, then we are all going backwards. Supermarkets still getting enormous profits. Fonterra, enormous profits. So something's not working.
There's also, and it probably would be different in the dairy sector, because probably a litre of milk in New Zealand is exactly the same as a litre of milk in Australia. But I remember when people used to come visiting from Australia, they'd go into our supermarkets and they'd get the kiwi fruit or something like that, and they were like, "Man, this is pretty average quality product."
Yeah.
And that's because actually what we have on our shelves isn't the A's, it's not the exports.
The rejects.
It's actually already the second grade. So when you go places that sell second grade fruit, you're actually getting third grade, because first grade is international, second grade is what's on our shelves, and then third grade is what suppliers call second grade. And I don't know if it's the same with dairy, probably not, because an ice cream carton in New Zealand is probably the same as an ice cream carton in Sydney, but interesting to figure out if it is or isn't, just to make sure.
I mean, I'm really interested from a business point of view whether Fonterra could do something like, okay, we need to reserve a portion of what we make for the domestic market, and we're just going to fix the price, and that's just the cost of doing business. Overseas can look after itself, because this is something that turns the public against farmers. Like you can't talk about a $10 block of butter or a $20 tray of just standard mints and then hear stories about, oh, the milk solid prices are great, the farmers are really happy, Fonterra's dishing out the dividends. It just won't math.
Well, maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe we need to figure out breaking up this duopoly. And look, I mean, I don't have the answer or the formula, but I think that we just pulled this out of thin air a few weeks ago. This idea that if you are making more money from exports in New Zealand, then you can subsidise in New Zealand. I'm not saying run at a loss, nothing like that. I'm saying, but you can subsidise and you can pay back the investment that this country has put in you and your company by maybe not needing to get export prices out of beneficiaries in New Zealand. Maybe that's why they don't have the $18 block of butter anymore. Maybe that, I don't think that's too big of an ask. There's another part of this conversation which we definitely want to highlight, and we are going to do that now. And that's actually what we have been looking at. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Nicola Willis, she wasn't quite crowing from the rooftops, but she did say that there were signs of growth across the economy. So what Craig has done as part of his episode this Thursday is he's got a graph to talk about what the Reserve Bank and Treasury saying about what's to come. And it appears, I'm going to use the wrong lingo because I'm dumb, but it appears we already have gone into a period of contraction. Like, so right now, the economy is contracting. So when she says she sees signs of growth, right now, we're contracting. Have a listen to this 90 seconds.
The Reserve Bank this week decided to hold interest rates where they are, despite a stalling economy and higher unemployment. Now, why did it do that? Essentially, the bank is a bit worried that inflation's a bit high at the moment, 2.6%. It seems to be heading higher. Food price inflation is 4.4%. And so therefore, cutting interest rates might lead to higher inflation in the future, despite the fact the economy isn't growing so well. So we're all going to suffer because that laser-like focus on the cost of living has unfortunately failed to go to Specsavers. Now, secondly, the Reserve Bank has also forecast that the economy is now contracting again. And as you can see from this chart, the bank puts out an estimate of current GDP conditions. And this week, it tipped over into the red. Now, it's been on the slide for a few weeks, but this is the first.
So let's just have a look at this in general, right? So basically, April, start of May, the first half, about the first quarter of May, since the first quarter of May, bar one very small time, we've been ticking down the whole time. Remember, this is the Reserve Bank. This is not Craig Rennie Esquire. This is the Reserve Bank, and it's also what Treasury is saying the same thing. So if you look at this graph, and I'm a moron, so listen to Craig's podcast with Clint Smith on Thursday morning, but what I see is not necessarily some shoots of growth out there. What I see is an economy slowly going backwards and now finally moving into a negatively geared economy. And that's what I guess Craig's warning is as part of his podcast on Thursday.
Into the red. Now, it's been on the slide for a few weeks, but this is the first time the Reserve Bank's forecast is suggesting that we could be heading back into an economic downturn, if not a recession. A recession is 2 quarters of negative economic growth, but this is the first time the Reserve Bank is now forecasting that we're contracting again as an economy. And just to make sure it's not the Reserve Bank, the Treasury also put out a note this week saying economic momentum is showing signs of easing in the June quarter, with indicators suggesting many households and businesses are facing challenging conditions. So both the Reserve Bank and the Treasury, the two best forecasters of the economy in the country, are showing there's real challenges in the economy, and the economy is really struggling at the moment.
So there you go. The Reserve Bank and Treasury are saying that the economy is really struggling at the moment. Nikki Noboats is saying there's signs of growth across the economy. So, I mean, the thing is, this is what politicians do. She might be speaking truthfully, signs of growth across the economy. Maybe in a sector within the economy, things are really picking up. But if you look at the whole economy, Reserve Bank, Treasury saying it's struggling, we're now contracting, and we could be heading towards another recession. And it's really important that when Craig puts out these podcasts and stuff with this kind of information that this government is not telling us, we then get it and we share it around. And that's going to be Thursday morning's podcast. Chlöe.
Nice. Yeah, look, I think it's pretty clear that we are heading for a recession. And I think there's only so much poo-pooing that Nikki could do about the fact that she's finance minister, and we're just going where the wind blows us. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
There was an interesting comment, and I'm paraphrasing because I was there for the podcast between him and Clint Smith, and I think Clint said something about, one of them said something about, they were talking about Family Boost and how Family Boost is a nightmare. You know, it's so difficult. It's like, and when I heard them say this, I was thinking about the whole economy. It's like the reason they're rejigging Family Boost is they need it to work. So they're not now in a point where they're doing something to make it better or to help people. They just need to have it work. That seems to be the focus. They need to be able to focus on one part of the economy and make it work. Or else again, they've got fodder to be used against them, sort of thing. So if their focus now in all these decisions is how do we save face, I just don't think that's a very good place to start with policy making for legislation. How do we come out of this looking good, as opposed to how do the public come out of this being better feeling better, but not just feeling either. I don't care about feeling better, being better. Not feeling safer, being safer. Not feeling like we've got more money, but having more money. And it's really important not to let them say the feeling of the country is like, I don't give a fuck about the feeling. I want the tangible way to measure these policies and these legislations they're bringing in.
Yeah, very true. Like they're not going to hold themselves to the same account that they held the previous government. They're not going to hold themselves like it's very clear that facts and evidence and none of that matters to this shower.
Yeah. Okay. Some of the texts that have come in over the last 10-15 minutes also taken on debt to pay for tax cuts. Yep, that's very true. I'm not home and I need a coffee. Sad. Also late. Okay, thanks, Bubba. Kiwi Bird, what data is Nikki looking at? I don't see growth. Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I mean, you know how when people, it's like statistics. They talk about, you know, you can make statistics almost say anything when you want. If you take the right statistic from the right part of the research and pull that out. So she might be able to point literally to somewhere that's showing signs of growing, but it seems that the whole economy, if you put it all together, that's not what Treasury's seeing, and that's not what the Reserve Bank is seeing. Nikki, no action. And finally, Aitvasta says, let's get New Zealand back on track. That ship has sailed, Nikki. Yeah, that's Craig's thing, and he says it when he's out with crowds, and he says it often on his podcast. So do you feel like you're back on track, New Zealand? Because that's what we were promised. Does this feel like it? Does this feel like we're back on track? And that obviously is a rhetorical question, somewhat. All right, Chlöe, anything else you want to throw in there?
No. Let's go on to the next. If we've got time, I've got something that we might tack on in the end, but I'm not going to ruin your flow right now.
Well, let's have some fun, shall we? A little bit of fun, because it doesn't impact us so much. Let's have a look at what's happening in America at the moment with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Got some clips to play you, because obviously, and I don't really need to explain too much of it, because what happens is this is some clips from CNN, and they do highlight some of the things that were said pre-election and post-election. But the first place they start with is Donald Trump's former best buddy, Elon Musk, and what he's up to at the moment when it comes to the Epstein files.
Quote, how can people be expected to have faith in Trump if he won't release the Epstein files? That post by Elon Musk this afternoon gets at a serious question, prompted by MAGA fans, among others, after the Justice Department asserted in a memo that convicted sex offender and multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein did not blackmail high-profile clients, was not murdered before he was found dead in his jail cell in 2019, and in fact had no client list. Despite the fact that the very same administration officials are now asserting there is no there there, many of them were the ones ginning up the controversy.
100%.
Before President Trump was reelected
100%.
and while they were in office. The Justice Department.
And that's the point. So there's two things that need to happen. Either those people like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and all of those people need to actively say, I was wrong and I apologize for sowing that mis and disinformation, right?
Oh, so naive.
Or they're lying now. So they were either mistaken or lying then, or they're lying now. You have to take an action on one of them. So if you're lying now, but you want people to think you're telling the truth, then you need to apologize for what you did previously. So it's that's actually, we've been talking about apologies this week. You can't move to the next stage before acknowledging your wrongdoings publicly.
The memo, first obtained by Axios, also comes 1 month after the billionaire Tesla founder took to his platform X as his alliance with President Trump dissolved. Quote, time to drop the really big bomb. Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason why they have not been made public.
Of course he is.
Musk deleted that post 2 days later. But the new memo has Musk posting this meme, among others. It's a guy putting on progressively more clown makeup with the text, we will release the Epstein list. We just need more time. The Epstein list is on my desk. There is no Epstein list, with full clown regalia.
So that's what old mate Elon Musk is up to at the minute. I
tell you what, I am living this serious newscaster describing a visual meme. That is just top-notch stuff.
So now CNN, same story, goes into talking about what Pam Bondi said, what Trump said, what JD Vance said, what Dan Bongino says, what Kash Patel said. Oh, and then today they say there is no list. And the funniest one, and I think it shows in this, was Trump today actually going to a reporter, are you still talking about this? Oh, that's such old news. It's like you're the guys who made this news for what, 5-6 years? And now you're like, well, it's inconvenient to us now, so we want to stop talking about it.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
So that's
been
Bondi.
a directive by President Trump.
But here was Attorney General Bondi earlier today.
I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that.
Trump was
I was thinking, Chlöe, this is actually the best and most likely time we will ever see the Martin Luther King file and the JFK file, because that's probably about the only thing that will take focus off this for any 1 second. Like if they wanted to take focus of it and they release those two immediately, that might do something for a while.
was asked about the memo today by a New York Post reporter.
Sorry, you go, sir.
Oh, it's just funny. It's something about Trump coming out and going, aliens are real. We've known for 60 years. Here, I've brought one to the press conference. His name is Kevin.
What do you call it? Swinging the dead cat, or the dead cat theory, or the bouncing dead cat, or whatever it is?
Just something. Anything.
They need something. I've
sent those stealth bombers out again, and they're heading for Moscow.
And now we get that clip that we just heard Pam Bondi was taken from this, when this next clip is actually happening before that. And Trump's like, well, if you want to talk about it, and I think that was his hint to go, shut the fuck up. We're not going to talk about this. But she talked about it anyway.
Reporter, and he expressed indignation.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
Because of you and your whole cabinet. That's why it's being talked about.
You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Mr. President.
And at that point he went, well, you can ask her if you want, Pam, but I mean, which was the signal to say, don't answer it. There's no point in answering it. And she answered it.
The reason people are talking about this guy is because people serving in the highest levels of your administration have been talking about this guy for years and talking about how the Epstein list needs to be released. Here's then Republican vice presidential nominee JD Vance in October 2024.
Everybody in politics has a vice that's much worse than alcoholism, is the way that I put it. But we
release the list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Here's Kash Patel on a podcast just over a year before he became FBI director.
Yep.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent turned right-wing podcaster, is now the FBI.
This is the best, actually, because he makes it very clear he's never going to give up the fight. And he's given up the fight.
Deputy director, here he is on his show in February. He was named deputy director just a few weeks later.
I'm not ever going to let this story go because of what I heard from a source about Bill Clinton on a plane with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not letting it go ever. Ever.
I'm not letting it go ever. And if we roll into the last part of the conversation, Alina Habba, who is, I think, now the district attorney for New Jersey, or the assistant district attorney, but she was the lawyer who lost Donald Trump more cases when he was trying to defame a sexual assault victim. She was a lawyer that lost all those cases. So she's a Trump lawyer.
In this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
Yeah.
I don't see how it's not shocking.
I'm shocked that none of that's been released. In February this year, Attorney General Bondi teased the imminent arrival of the Epstein files, and President Trump's eldest son, Don Jr., posted about the news, quote, LFG,
Let's
an
fucking
acronym for
go.
Let's effing go. A week later, the Trump administration invited a slew of conservative MAGA influencers to the White House, purporting to give them a first look at a batch of documents labeled the Epstein files, phase 1, but none of it was a smoking gun. The vast majority of the information had already been made publicly available. CNN's Evan Perez reported in March that Attorney General Bondi directed FBI agents, in some cases, to drop their work on China and Iran and focus on redacting the files before their release. Remember, Trump made part of this his platform. Here he is during the 2024 campaign.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so.
Remember, this is after he was asked, will you declassify JFK? Yep. Martin Luther King? Yep. Epstein? Yeah.
Because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
A lot of phony stuff. The other thing,
And I know, because I was there.
Yeah, phony stuff. I know, because I wrote half of it. There's a couple other clips I want to play. One is Alex Jones and how he reacted today, because I put in the show notes, I think I put in brackets, don't get your hopes up, but will this finally be the thing that cracks some people away from Trump? You know, he famously said, I could shoot and kill someone in Manhattan and I wouldn't lose a vote. It was probably true at the time. I want to show you how Vinny from the PBD podcast has reacted. Right, the most loyal Trump sycophant in the world, angry patriot. Alex Jones, much to the same, what they're saying at the moment. Now, don't get your hopes up, because remember, there was a bunch of people on the right-wing commentators and pundits, who said some things about Iran and weren't happy, and then within a week, they were back on board. So we'll just always put that out there. But before I show those, Chlöe, you got any thoughts or comments about what you've seen so far?
These guys ducking and diving because they've made promises and they can't follow them up because they're on there. They've got to be in those lists. There's so many pictures of Trump with this guy. Like, I don't care who's in that list. I want it out. Like, if there are people on the left that are on that list, good. If there's people on the right, good.
Yeah.
They're fucking pedophiles that went to a guy's private pedophile playground. Like, even if you're the hardest Trump supporter in the world, surely your moral compass, if you have one at all, is like, well, look, if it turns out he's a pedophile and he's on those lists, maybe he's not my guy.
But
I
that's
think
the problem.
People that are absolutely fucking terrified of that.
But that's
They've
the
built
problem.
their entire personalities around being Trump.
Yeah, if they're people with moral values, the problem is morality is very relative. You do hear, when I'm going to play Alex Jones, you do hear him basically saying that the Trump administration should be ashamed of themselves. How could they do this? But he also goes, maybe it's something a bit higher up the chain. Maybe the deep state has got in. Maybe someone's forcing Trump's hand. So they can be. It's so tribal at the moment. And I think it's the same in our politics on some level. It's so tribal at the moment. I mean, it sometimes leapfrogs morality. I mean, how can someone who calls himself an evangelical Christian have the most vulnerable in New Zealand be worse off under him? That seems to be counterintuitive to everything about the faith he claims to follow. But they find their morality, they duck and dive and they weave and they find a relative point through into it, and then they justify it. So I actually do agree with you, Chlöe, but I'm also a realist going, if they want to stay in the tribe, then they will find a way for it to fit their morality. It's what do you call it? It's motivated cognition. We've talked about this before. So when they go from A to B to C, that's their line of morality. Then when you put a block in the middle of the way and go, see, this is why B doesn't work, what they do is then they just go from A to D and then back to C. They just find a different path to get to the same conclusion.
It sounds exhausting. I prefer having a clear moral imperative.
Just tell the truth.
It cuts through so much. Like, your political hero, the guy that you held up, or your musical hero that you've held up. It turns out that they're a fucking demon, and here's the proof. Cool. They're not my guy anymore.
Yeah, and that's interesting.
I
mean,
will
how many
cut people loose so fucking quick?
Yeah. How many times have we heard like a singer who's turned out to be a sex offender, and you throw them away? How many times have you heard, like, if you're a religious
trash.
person? Yeah. How many
Trash
times have you heard that kind of thing? And they're gone, and no one you don't fight for them. So why is it so different that it's Trump? What does Trump do in these people's minds? If there is truly a Trump derangement syndrome, maybe this is it. It's not all those people opposing Trump. It's those people that will stay with Trump no matter what. Maybe that's the actual derangement syndrome. Well, speaking of that, good way to go into Alex Jones. They call him the Ozempic kid now because he's lost so much weight and so quickly. I don't know how long this goes for, but this is on MSNBC. So we're just using them to show you what he's saying. But just have a listen and just think about this guy is a sycophant. He believes that Trump has been sent from God to fix the country and did it. You know, it's like he is basically the Messiah to him. Trump is to this guy.
So now, by coming in and being part of the cover-up, the Trump administration has become part of it. I mean, it's just you cannot see it any other way. So I just got to the office. So I'm going to go throw up, actually. And this only happens every few years when something really, really bad happens or something. I mean, I'm physically going to puke probably right now. My mouth is watering right now because I have integrity.
Such a weird dude.
I just really need the Trump administration to succeed and to save this country, and they're doing so much good. And then for them to do something like this tears my guts out.
So you can hear he's on the fence, but for them to do something like this tears my guts out. And then this is from our friends at the Majority Report. They replayed some of PBD, and Vinny, right, who was the angry patriot, who was the most unhinged person on that show, and pretty dumb to be fair, is the one who is being truthful and accurate. He's actually giving the correct response here. Now, this will be a bit weird because you do hear Sam and Emma in the background kind of talking about this as well. But let's have a look to the argument that had on PBD when Vinny was actually the guy going, no, tear it all down. If they're part of it, tear it all down, which is the correct response.
We are built on pedophilia and blackmailing them.
We means America. If America is built.
Most powerful
What do you mean we are built? Define that. Do you mean our entire country, our entire government, our entire FBI, CIA?
I'm saying this. Whoever,
or this is one little operation that they don't want to expose.
Whoever he was working for, Epstein, Mossad, CIA, everything. Apparently, the most powerful people on the world were flying to an island and having sex with underage kids because she said it. There's tens of thousands of hours of them doing it. If we're built on that and the most powerful people that are running the show are in charge, the guys telling Cash Patel, the thing that you just read, shut up. Shut up about it. Hold on, you know who I am. He knows who I am. I want accountability for everybody. If it's Trump, if it's Bill Gates, if it's Bill Clinton, I don't care. If it's the president of anything, expose them because, Adam, the truth has to come out.
Okay, so I only have one question for you, my dear friend. I agree with you, but at
Nah, you don't. You don't, because you're basically about to ask, what if it broke everything and tore the whole country down? So you're about to say, but it might be too serious to expose those people. So you don't really agree.
What price?
But hold
on, hear me out.
What price?
At what price?
At any price, Adam.
So you're saying to expose whatever happened on Epstein Island, you're willing to do whatever this looks like.
Yes.
Tear down the government, expose all the secrets, put America
Pause it for a
basically
second.
in harm's way.
Now, it seems like, I don't want to be...
Listen to Sam's commentary, then we'll get out.
With Vinny here.
Yeah, no, I do. That's why I love him.
But it seems like Adam is suggesting that if this list comes out, our government's going to fall.
Yeah.
And that would imply that Donald Trump is on that list.
Yeah.
Like
Christine Pelosi. Remember that when she said...
There you go. That'll do. So angry patriot. I mean, a broken clock and all that kind of stuff, but I don't care if it's Trump, tear it down. His colleagues in the PBD podcast are like, well, well, that might be a step too far. So, running interference already. But it's just fascinating. My whole YouTube feed at the moment is full up of Jeffrey Epstein and Trump, and it's just, I don't know, like you said, Chewy, the distraction they need from this. Just keep an eye out for the next 2 or 3 days if there's not some humongous thing that comes out of that White House.
Yeah, or is this a distraction for something else? Everything's so fucking crazy.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Why is everything so crazy? Do you know what I woke up? I woke up to a crazy story. Benjamin Netanyahu nominated Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize.
That was yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, and he gave Trump the letter that he sent. So Trump, so you want to stroke the man's ego, like if you want to get something out of Trump, make him feel important. Benjamin Netanyahu handed across the table the letter that he sent to the committee nominating him for the Peace Prize. Now, what do you think Trump's going to do for the next hour and a half that he's with Netanyahu? He's going to say yes to anything.
To everything. Yeah.
Anything. I mean, and I noticed today he was making angry noises about Putin. It's almost like Netanyahu's out of his mind now. I wonder why. That is.
Like I've had some real interesting conversations with people about this Nobel Peace Prize thing, because they're like, fucking, what about Obama? I don't think Obama deserved one either.
No, of course not.
Man was doing a campaign of drone strikes that was completely unprecedented.
And he got it like a month or 2 months into his presidency. He had literally done nothing. He had been a black president. He had been elected a black president, and that got him the Nobel Peace Prize. He shouldn't have got it. Of course not.
This is ridiculous. Of course, everything has a historical context, right? Did you know that Hitler was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in 1938?
Wow.
Can you imagine fumbling the bag so hard of like, I'm going to nominate the Führer?
I'd love to. I'd be interested to see what was the rationale, because I'm assuming when you nominate, it's not just like Adolf Hitler and then post. It's like there's got to be a letter of why. It would be interesting to see what that was.
Apparently, it was because he negotiated an agreement in the Slovak crisis, whatever that was. But
okay,
yeah,
probably a crisis he caused.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, just like, let's just add that to the list of insane nominations for the Nobel Peace Prize.
And it's interesting that someone will get nominated for a Peace Prize just after they bombed a country with no authority to do so. I thought this thing the other day about Iran, and I got some flack on Twitter, that place that's not real, which is fine. It's like, if people agree that Hamas has the right to defend itself based on October 7th, what has Iran got the right to do now that they were bombed by America? What have they got the right to do for the next 2 years? People didn't like that very much. Of course, I was an agent of Iran all of a sudden, but let's just follow through. If an attack, if an unprovoked attack, and look, get me right, I'm not saying October 7th was an unprovoked attack, but let's just use the example that is used. If an unprovoked attack causes the right to defend yourself, means leveling a city, a country, for 2 years, what is Iran now allowed to do to defend itself?
Nothing.
Wow,
they're not allowed.
That would be illogical. Surely, Cherry, that would be illogical.
At the risk of tangenting, is that a word? I just made a word.
We'll get it.
Did you see Juliet Moses' opinion piece?
No.
In the Herald?
Oh no, I wish I had have.
Did you see Golriz's comments on Iran a little bit?
I'm sorry, I didn't. I saw some headlines saying that her comments on Iran were wrong, but I don't know what the story is. So nope. Educate me.
Yeah. So let's see if I can.
It was on Stuff. I saw something on Stuff.
I think it was on Stuff. Basically, Golriz made some comments about Iran and Juliet Moses has waded in. And they do say that Juliet Moses is from the New Zealand Jewish Council. There is, of course, no mention of the fact that it is a very, very pro-Zionist organisation. But someone got in my mentions in Blue Sky and just went, well, Juliet has written an incredibly factually correct article. And it's just really emphasising the fact that Iran has been sponsoring terrorist groups for many years. So they must be a bad guy if they're doing that. And I just wanted to go, how can you say that? Look, that is factual. Okay, Iran has funded a lot of insurgencies and terrorist groups and that sort of thing. But you know who else has done that? The US. The US has done that a lot as well. So, you're talking about Iran running proxy wars. Israel runs proxy wars. Israel does all of these things that she's holding up and going, well, Israel has a right to defend itself because Iran is the bad guy. It's a very different article if you look through it once you know that Juliet Moses is a Zionist spokesperson.
Yeah. I mean, that should be an addendum at the end, shouldn't it? Because I mean, like, we wanted to talk about a story in the news to do with, I don't know, remember what they call it, but Jewish characters on movies, and how they've done them with bigger noses. And was it, even though it was accurate to the person who had a bigger nose, was it still anti-Semitic? And so we did the right thing. We went to the name of it's not obviously the opposite of a mosque. What's the name of that a rabbi works at? A temple? Whatever it is. Synagogue. Went to a synagogue and said we'd like some people to talk about this, and they pointed us to Juliet Moses. So we actually went about it the right way, and we got to Juliet Moses because I guess my knowledge was lacking in who they were. Because if it just says Jewish society, you think, oh, okay, well they have a perspective from within Judaism. It doesn't give, whether that's a hard right, hard left, Zionist, progressive, whatever. That needs to be part of an addendum on anything that anyone like that writes. I mean, I would expect the same if it was Marilyn Garson, so people would know it's from Alternative Jewish Voices, which are a progressive, Jewish group sort of thing.
A much better fit for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and look, that's the good thing about, like, I can see that trap that we fell in. And like, I think we were lucky in the fact that people caught us on that and said, hey, look, just so you know.
But the other thing was, it was a non-controversial topic. It was talking about Bradley Cooper's nose in a movie.
Fake nose.
It wasn't talking about the political stouse between Gaza and Israel. So no harm, no foul, really. And we learned from it. So yeah, like you're saying.
Yeah. But yeah, sort of responding to what Golriz had said, and just basically highlighting that Iran does this, Iran does that, they're the bad guys, and just sitting there going, there is absolutely no mention of what a destabilizing factor Israel is in the Middle East. Like there's been no temperance in there, and they have been attacking their neighbors for decades, and they have been chomping down on Palestine for decades.
Right.
Just little bits, just enough. There's always a death toll ticking through, but it's just keeping it under that limit where Western media gives a fuck.
Yeah, it's 100.
Right?
It's 100 a day. They've been talking about that in the last 24 hours. If it's less than 100 a day, they don't typically report it. And if you ever look at the last 3 or 4 days, there's been like a total of under 400 people killed, but like 4,000 injured. And some are making the case that they know this and they're actually keeping the numbers sort of below 100. And then, Trump's in the Epstein files gets the headline rather than 600 people killed in Gaza today.
Or their insane announcement, I think it was today or yesterday, that they're going to build a humanitarian city in what's left of Rafah. And people are quite rightly pointing out that it's like, oh, so you're going to build them a humanitarian camp and concentrate the Gazans in it. Like it's what would you call it?
A holiday park?
Concentration camp. A concentration camp.
Oh, that's better.
That's better. They literally use the word concentrate in their announcement. That's how much they think the rest of the world doesn't give a fuck.
And what we don't get too much of is I saw an item yesterday with a Palestinian man in Gaza who said quite clearly, my home has been destroyed, but I want to go back there and tidy it up and live there. That's my home. That's where I want to be. And it almost sounded like he was saying, I don't know if you've spent much time in Asia or in the Pacific Islands, Chlöe, but I spent a lot of time in the Pacific Islands, and, you know, and Fiji in particular, they have corrugated iron houses. Yeah, that's just what they do. It sounds like that. The people are like, I mean, like, I don't really understand it like Māori would understand the connection to the land, but thinking about the connection to the land, it's more important for that man to be on that piece of land that's his, in whatever lean-to he builds, than in something that's perhaps more appropriate to live in a different part of Gaza, sponsored and built by the IDF.
I mean, I had a conversation with someone about this of like, well, you know, why don't they just leave? You know, they're getting bombed and attacked everywhere. They like, well, why can't they go to Egypt? Why isn't Egypt helping? And it's like, if they leave, then their home is gone and they can never go back. And that's a big ask. Like, and I think that is why people have stayed. It is their homeland. You stay in your homeland. You fight for your homeland. That's something that a lot of people can understand, right? And they just expect the Palestinians to just give up and fuck off or die.
Yeah.
It's unthinkable. Like, I can't get my head into that space because it's something I will never experience.
Yeah. All right. Ryzen says silence about your PDF friend, Trump Seymour. Silence about your PDF friend. Okay. Vanda says, will you be looking at our man David giving money promised to lower income schools for lunches, giving a sizable chunk of it to private schools? We always look at David Seymour. He's one of our faves. In fact, speaking of...
We need to revisit the school lunches thing, I think. There's been a little bit of chatter about the latest wave of it.
Yeah.
We ain't forgotten. We need to check in on that pig that was stealing taxpayer lunches.
Yeah, we were talking about doing that thing when we went out to Auckland, but to be honest, when we went out to Auckland, it seems like they just hit an okay patch, and there wasn't heaps of schools with leftover bits. So our little submission to David Seymour's office seemed to unfortunately not counter exactly with when we were going to be there. Okay, now speaking to David Seymour, let's have a look at a conversation this morning between Nicole McKee and Chlöe Swarbrick. They are talking about completely, and look, I'll be honest with you, it is interesting, the idea of, bringing back the more, that kind of stuff, but talk about bouncing the dead cat, if that's indeed the right thing, when there's so much else going on. But Chlöe does a fantastic job of redirecting the conversation of, bringing back the more into more important things, including looking after the current ecological system we have and maybe not trying to put a mine in the middle of the Kiwi habitat. So some from Chlöe.
Yeah, I mean, look, it sounds really cool. I'm interested in learning more information, but I think that we also need to, as you did in your opening remarks, make something of the fact that right now we know that we are in a kind of biodiversity crisis here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. 75% of our Indigenous native biodiversity, our bats, our reptiles, our fish are currently at risk of extinction. This government said it's too expensive to try and save them. So, if we're talking about bringing some of these extinct species back, surely we should also be talking about saving those that we already have.
See, I agree with you, and that's why I asked that question. But the scientists seem to suggest that if you bring some back, that helps aid biodiversity. And if you had something like that was big and out there, and people would travel from all over the world, then you would build sanctuaries. You would build...
We've kind of got that for Kiwi right now, though, don't we? And this government's proposing putting coal mines in the middle of Kiwi habitats. I mean, it's true.
Is that funny?
No, it's not. It's not funny. It's funny the way that Chlöe spins a lot of.
It's funny the way that Chlöe spins it. You mean accurately? Shane Jones this evening talking about lizards, the dead moths and lizards that we have to look out for. Yeah, Yeah, so it is actually accurate.
These things. We need to be able to make sure that we can heat New Zealand. So we are going to dig for coal, but we also make sure that we look after our Indigenous species as well. I think it's a good thing that we're looking at whether or not we can recreate the moa, because what this means for the future is that we could look after some of the animals that we're worried about right now if we can understand how we can protect them, how we can recreate them if that's the way forward as well.
Also, do we need to worry about the Kiwi going extinct if we can just bring it back? Do you know what I mean?
I think we do.
There is no, I mean, this is part of the problem though, right? There is no economy without ecology. Jobs happen on the planet, and we actually can create an economy that works for and supports the well-being of people and planet, as opposed to exploiting and exhausting both.
There you go. Clip number 1, very nicely delivered as well. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any interest in that moa story, Chewie? I mean, like I said, the only thing that annoys me, here's the thing that annoys me about the moa story. Every time that comes up, whether it's about the moa or whether, they talk about the woolly mammoth, they always show fucking shots from Jurassic Park 1995. It's like their only reference point is you see that sign where Sam Neill pulls down his glasses because he's seen a Triceratopodicus in the background. It's like, it's interesting, but it's not important right now. It's not important. Whether there is a new moa or not, it's not important.
You heard it here first. Proof that Pat Brittenden was not a dinosaur kid.
Oh, actually, it wasn't a dinosaur kid.
No, it shows. You showed your whole ass there by not pronouncing the name Diplodocus.
Diplodocus.
I almost got into a fist. I almost got into a fist fight with a kid at primary school over whether it was Diplodocus or Diplodocus.
Diplodocus.
So I was a dinosaur kid. Look, I think
it was actually a brachiosaurus, and it was 1993.
Brachiosaurus. Okay, that's
So you weren't. Hang on. So that means sure you weren't like a dinosaur kid, obviously.
No, I absolutely was. I am a dinosaur kid to the point of view now that whenever there is dinosaurs being showed and they don't have feathers, I get angry. I am an adult man. Look, I think Chloe's exactly right. Cool. We can bring back the moa. If it was something that happened, I would go and fucking see one. It would be cool. Is it something that deserves any sort of media spotlight? Let's get 2 government ministers to talk about it. No, it's a nonsense story. Peter Jackson's apparently involved. Peter Jackson's involved in lots of things. We're still waiting for his remake of the Dam Busters 20 years later.
Yeah.
Let's not wait for Peter Jackson to bring back the moa. Let's preserve what we've got, and then when we've got that in a space, maybe we can talk about it. I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb. From a science point of view, I think it's very interesting if we could do it. Doing it with a bird, it would be hard because you can't get the DNA out of the bones. But they've apparently bred back the dire wolf.
Yeah,
recently,
I heard that as well. Yeah,
in America, and people again talking about the woolly mammoth. Now, those, sure, cool.
One of the things they've said is you don't actually ever bring something back. You basically make a new mutated version of it that may look like it, but it's not bringing it back. So
imagine if there was some sort of genetic memory in a species, right? You bring it back and they get that. Oh, cool, you've brought me back. Oh, just in time for the fucking whole biome to die. Rather than talking about this story, how about we talk about the study that came out and said, hey, look, we've been looking at the Southern Ocean around Antarctica. It's getting warmer and saltier. And that is going to fuck with the entire planet.
Yeah.
Or the people that go, hey, look, we're really concerned about Iceland's... is it Greenland or Iceland? I always get them mixed up. What's the bigger one?
Greenland, I think.
Greenland ice cap goes. It disrupts the current that keeps England warm, basically. So all that fresh water goes in, they go, that current goes away, and then that's the northern hemisphere's climate fucked. But no, let's bring back some extinct animals and pretend that that's important from an ecological biodiversity point of view. Yes, it increases biodiversity by 1. How many species are we wiping out at the same time? Oh, I don't know. 850.
Shane Jones is responsible for wiping out about 10 species, I think. I think in the media it's fine to talk about as long as it's not replacing more important conversations. Like if Chlöe came on here, I'd probably ask her about it, but that's because hopefully we'd be talking to Chlöe for an hour and a quarter. So there's time. When you're in a 8-minute and 17-second conversation, spending the first third of it talking about that, although again, Chlöe did very, very well spinning it to talk about current ecology and how unimportant it actually was. But in saying all of that, let's get to the next bit, because there's 2 points from this. And Chewy, I think you either said it yourself or it was the piece you read about it doesn't matter if a media is biased, it matters if they're accurate. I fully agree with that.
That was from Gary Lineker.
And I've taken it on board because I saw a story the other day talking about Mikey Sherman on Q&A interrupting the guest 12, 14 times, yet when another guest was on, they never got interrupted once. And I'm like, well, so was the person that was interrupted a lot telling the truth? Were they answering the question? Were they needing to be redirected? Interrupting versus not interrupting is not a demonstration of bias. Being accurate is what you need to do. And if she needed to redirect people, it was Paul Goldsmith, wasn't it? Redirect him or ask him again, or if he was saying something untruthful, that's fine. Accurate is more important. Like, being biased doesn't mean that you interrupt someone 5 times and another person not at all, right? That's not bias. Bias is actually when you won't accept accurate answers and try and spin it. So that's what they're having a talk about, right, in this conversation. The other thing that I think there is a beautiful bit here that just explains to everybody who Nicole McKee is and where she gets her information from. Because she reveals in this story that she doesn't have a TV and she doesn't watch TV. So where does she get her news from? She gets her news from the internet. I'm on the internet, she says. And you were talking about the ACT people at that meeting, how they looked exactly like you'd expect them to. That's exactly where I would expect Nicole McKee to get her news from, the internet, and only the internet. I can even imagine the kinds of algorithms she's in to get that news that she has. So here they are talking about TVNZ bias review.
This bias review. So an independent person is going to come in and review the news, essentially, check for balance and bias. This is following government pressure about perceived...
It's the same to do with balance. Balance is not accurate. Balance doesn't matter. And the example that we often use, which is easy, is global warming, climate change. Because if you put 2 people up next to each other to give different perspectives, that gives the impression that it's an even conversation, it's balanced. Whereas the truth is, you should have 9 commentators or scientists on one side and 1 on the other. That would actually be accurate, but it would look imbalanced. So that's why this thing about balance, balance doesn't matter and bias doesn't matter. Being accurate and truthful matter. And if you're going to want to be accurate, if you have a guest on that only represents 10% of the perspective out there, that needs to at least be said, or you need to figure out how to demonstrate it once in a while. Maybe you don't have that person on but once a month when you have the other person on 4 times a month, or something like that.
Bias at One News and TVNZ more generally. Nicole, do you think, when was the last time you watched 6 o'clock news, and do you think it was bias?
I haven't watched the 6 p.m. news for quite some time now. Usually...
It's a Minister of the Crown, Whānau. Minister of the Crown hasn't watched the 6 p.m. news for some time. Anyone else surprised?
Because I'm quite busy and I don't have a television at home either. I haven't had one for over 25 years. So
really?
Yeah, so I'm on the internet.
She's on TikTok.
I'm on the internet. Not surprised.
So I'm on the internet. That's how I see my news. Are they biased? Well, I suggest that maybe they go and have a look at the ACT YouTube page when they're doing their review, because they'll see full videos of what's being recorded as opposed to what actually goes out on television. They can make their mind up there. But I congratulate TVNZ because they've recognised there's a drop in the polling and that they're trying to investigate why that is. So good.
Just remind you all as well, that whole kind of look at the ACT YouTube channel. We show everything, so does TVNZ. They put the full video up and then they cut it down for publication. We did this the other day with David Seymour and John Campbell. We showed you where TVNZ was hosting the full conversation, the full unedited conversation. And then ACT put out the full unedited conversation like it was some kind of gotcha. It was on the TVNZ website, as was the one made for broadcasting. It's ridiculous.
How do you watch movies?
Netflix, but I haven't watched a full movie all the way through for about 5 or 6 years. It can take me weeks to watch a movie.
Wow. And well, no wonder you don't have a TV. I imagine it's very difficult. Chlöe, do you think TV1 is biased?
I think that we need to take a step back and look at the whole media ecosystem. And look, the facts are that a majority of New Zealanders do have a bit of a crisis of trust in our media landscape. So I think it is a good thing that we are asking questions here. But the reality is, as Nicole has kind of alluded to, although I don't necessarily think that the ACT Party YouTube page is the source of truth, is that, you know, every single thing that ends up being packaged up and presented on the 6 o'clock news has come from a choice, a selection of choices.
Yes,
basically.
I do agree with this bit. You get to edit. You get to choose who you interview, therefore what voices end up being represented, what perspectives are. Then you get to edit which sound bites end up being represented, and then you get to package that up. Do you feel you've been screwed over in that process previously?
I think that every politician would probably say that, if I'm honest with you, which is also probably part and parcel of a robust media landscape. It's important that we have a really strong fourth estate to hold politicians to account, and that's actually what really concerns me about the current landscape, is that we've seen a whittling down of the outlets and a whittling down of the journalists, and when we're trying to pitch, for example, stories on climate change, it's really hard to get the cut through because it's complicated stuff.
There you go. Don't know how much of that you heard, Joe, because of you dropping it in and out. I have a bit of a rant again on I don't care about balance. I don't care about neutrality. And it's not because I want my perspective definitely put out there. I care about accuracy and truthfulness. And if being accurate means someone has to be cut into 10 times in an interview because they're bullshitting, and the next person who is very accurate doesn't get cut into at all, that's not a demonstration of bias towards that person. That's a demonstration of that person not telling the truth and needing to be stopped, to redirected, to call them on it. That's what it's about.
Look, I think the classic case here is the Green Party's alternative budgets, both the one that they did this year and the one that they did in the lead up to the election. That was a serious piece of work that was pretty much hand waved away by their opposition. And that was enough for the media at that time. They're like, oh, we're not even going to look at this. It's just fucking crazy. But there was some really, really interesting points there that I just wish were given the weight that they deserved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that the Green Party is only going to solve by getting more and more vote share. But I have big concerns about the media landscape because of the massive culling that we've had. Like we've focused this week on a couple of right-wing voices, or at least voices that are definitely taking right-wing talking points, Paddy Gower and Ryan Bridge, and you know they've got big platforms. And then in the alternative space, you've got a lot of right-wing outlets as well. And then, you know, the comments that I had from people that I met tonight at the protest and that sort of thing of like, oh, we've finally found some left-wing media, some left-wing news commentary. I just didn't know that there was any.
Who are they talking about?
They're talking about us, Pat.
What?
And they're talking about Bomber, and they're talking about Mountain Tui, and they're talking about Paul Barlow. And we are all doing our own thing on the smell of Patreon fan donations and oily rags.
And Jacinda. Remember that brown envelope from Jacinda every week?
Oh, I don't like to be gauche and bring that up all the time.
Okay.
But yeah, there is something wrong in our media landscape, and I think there is just not the bodies out there it's too easy to get stuff past them at the moment, and I think that's showing in the stories that we have and the time that is being spent on these issues. Like if it's 1 or 2 days and then it's on to the next thing. Like if a politician can outlast that, which most of them can, then they're home free.
Yeah. I was going to mention, you talked about they've got big audiences. I think there's a relativity that needs to be understood here as well. Like I looked today at the stuff page, I'm looking at it right now and good grief, what is that?
Fucking hell. Oh shit, what's happening? My phone just went spastic. Sorry.
So the stuff piece with Paddy Gower has had 2,800 views. And stuff has 82,000 subscribers. The clip we did last night about the stuff that included that clip has had 3,200 views, and we've got 18,500 subscribers. I know that the Herald at the moment is getting around 5,000 views for the BHN that they do each morning, about 5,000 views on the episode. We get, well, because we've been talking about Gaza, we've dipped at about 500, but we're getting around that 3,000 figure. NZ Herald has 182,000 subscribers. And we're getting more than half what they get with 18,500 subscribers. So, yeah, they do have a platform and they do have lots of people, but it's not the same as, for example, being on TVNZ News. That would be 500,000 in their sleep without even trying on a Saturday night. You know, so those shares are being broken up a bit more. Hey, look, there is one more thing I want to play us, and it's a very short clip, and it is just Nicole McKee being asked about the COVID inquiry. I do love that Jacinda just went, oh, yep, I'll come back if they want me to come back. Because, of course, the Ryan Bridges, the Paddy Gowers, the tinfoil hat-wearing brigade were like, oh, Nuremberg 2.0. Ryan Bridge and that weren't there, but, you know, they were like, she'll never come back. And they asked her and she went, yep, no problems. I'll come back for it. I, on some level, maybe called the bluff, but we'll see what happens, right? That's the first thing I love about the COVID inquiry. The second thing is what Nicole McKee says now. So she's about to get asked about the COVID inquiry and how important it is. And she doesn't realize this because I don't think she's very smart. But what she's saying is we should have listened to the Regulatory Standards Bill, the first lot of submissions, that we only got 0.33% of the respondents in our favour. Have a listen first to what she says about the COVID inquiry, and then I might just read you a quote.
So we had Chris Hipkins in yesterday. He said he thinks that this is about platforming, what did he call them, extremist views, conspiracy theorists. Nicole, do you think that undermines the COVID inquiry?
No, I don't at all. And I think that, you know, we had 13,000 submissions of people telling us what they wanted to be reviewed and what they wanted the inquiry to look at. And I think that, you know, as a government, we're giving the people what they wanted. Chris Hipkins needs to, well, I encourage him to stand up and actually front New Zealand, because he needs to tell them what his thinking was behind some of the decisions that he made. That's how we will learn as a country what worked, what didn't work. So I encourage him to take the opportunity, if it's given to him, to turn up and speak to the inquiry.
All right.
So this is what she said. We had 13,000 submissions of people telling us what they wanted to be reviewed and what they wanted the inquiry to look at. And I think as a government, we're giving the people what they wanted. So what she's saying is the people who made submissions, all 13,000 of them wanted us to do this. We are a government that fulfills the needs and wants of our people. So we're going to do it. And so I just want to know what she thinks about this, the needs and wants of the people. This is the first round of the Regulatory Standards Bill. After the discussion document was launched on the bill in November, the Ministry of Regulation received about 23,000 submissions. So it's not quite twice as many, but it's getting there. Of those, 88% opposed the bill, 0.33% or 76 submissions supported or partially supported it, and about 12% did not have a clear position, the ministry reported. So here is my question, Minister McKee. If 13,000 submissions from people telling you what they wanted that led you to giving the people what they wanted, what does 23,000 submissions telling you what they didn't want mean? That surely you should have given them what they didn't want, or what they wanted was no regulatory standards bill. It is quite interesting and ironic in this stage that we's wrong, the government, we the people, the government can say, well, these submissions support this, so of course we're going to do it. But when it's a narrative that they want to push through, then of course, as David Seymour said, well, 99.5% of those submissions were bots, which would still leave 0.5%, which would still be more than 76. So I just thought it's very gracious of Nicole McKee to put out there that we should not be moving forward with the regulatory standards bill, because what the people wanted is what you do based on 13,000 submissions. So I assume what the people wanted based on 23,000 submissions is what you do. And I wonder even more so, I believe the number is now 151,000. What people want from 151,000 submissions in this round of the regulatory standards bill should be therefore what you do. I rest my case, Chlöe.
Now, it's good that this didn't happen. It's good that Chlöe doesn't break in the way that I want her to. I've heard her turn around and go, no, all those people were bots and their submissions were of low quality, so they should be disregarded, because that's what David Seymour would say. But she didn't, because Chlöe Swarbrick is a better person than I am.
It's been a lovely show tonight. There's a few starred messages in there that we need to get to. Let's get to those, shall we? Joshua, I have to be honest, I wasn't looking very, very carefully at the names. I was kind of going past. And it was when you were talking about Juliet Moses, and I saw the J and the M, and I thought, what is Juliet Moses? Juliet Moses sending us something, but it's not. I just caught that. It's Joshua Moss. The Moa will be, will at most be a Frankenstein's monster-style abomination of a modified Tinamo, Moa's closest living relative in South America. Yep. Kiwi Bird says, Ryan is cooked. We are struggling to look after our living native species thanks to cuts to dock. And Shane Jones wanting to open coal mines. AKA Decat says, Namahi kids. Namahi you do. Peter says the government is full of dinosaurs anyway. Very funny. Gold says, currents. If the Greenland ice sheet melts, we have about 7 meters of sea levels rise. Is it that much?
Yeah,
Sheesh.
There's an enormous amount of water tied up in the ice caps, man. Just
Peter says,
crazy.
I really worry about AI media manipulation. Yep, don't we all? Don't we all?
Hey, speaking of the AI thing,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've followed this, but do you know that Spotify have a whole AI band now?
No.
That they have. Okay, so you can tell it's AI because it's terribly named. Velvet Sunset. So Spotify have created a whole AI band. The music isn't made by people. It's a 70s inspired sort of thing. Everything about it is AI. So Spotify, famous for not paying artists much at all for their streams, have now created an artist that they don't have to pay at all. Now, the spooky thing about this is usually I can pick up AI music a mile off. If I didn't know that these guys were AI, I wouldn't be able to pick it.
Are we going to get pulled if we play some? We probably would, wouldn't we?
Oh, what? Are they going to come after us for copyright? Nobody made it.
It's more that
Nobody made it.
but someone will own it.
There's not a purpose. There's not a record company.
I'm not going to do it just because I can't be asked with having to then cut stuff out and that.
Yeah, no,
how the Velvet Sundown on AI created band conquered Spotify. Of course, the thing is though as well is then Spotify can load their algorithms. When they say it conquered Spotify,
yeah, they'll just put it in front of everybody.
Yeah. So,
and they don't have to pay anyone for it. This plus the Spotify CEO's personal donation of money or investment into military AIs means I'm gone from Spotify.
Oh, real? What's left?
I'm looking at something called, oh God, I can't even pronounce it. Qobuz or something like that. It looks pretty good, but it's just, I haven't been happy with Spotify for a long time. Like the Joe Rogan thing annoyed me when that happened. And then this and the military AI investment and that sort of thing is like, I can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a drag because like I have so many playlists and, invested a lot of, like I'm a huge music fan. So I spend a lot of time listening to Spotify and now I have to rebuild basically years worth of stuff.
We will rebuild it.
We will, because again, your moral positions matter.
Yeah.
Put some weight on how you feel about this sort of stuff. I think to take out the end of the show, I've been sent some paparazzi footage, Pat.
Oh, okay. It's not like
I've been papped.
Okay, let's have a look.
Tim Jago, why did you shelter a pedophile for as many months as you did? Are you still friends? We haven't heard anything about it. Just wondering.
Shame! What was all that about? What was going on there?
What's all that about? So there you go.
Like
you don't need chants. You just need a megaphone and just ask questions.
Should we get some megaphones for the shop and sell a few BHN branded foo-foo phones? That'd be a good
I
sell,
do need
wouldn't
to
it?
come around and get some more stickers for it. I've just got my face on it, but it definitely needs more.
I like it how you are actually interrupting the chant as well. The person tried to start a chant and then stopped because you were still going. Very funny.
Oh, you had to pick your moment. Like there was so much chanting going on. Like I've got things to say.
All right, team. Been a lovely old night tonight. Thank you for joining us. Well, actually, I should rephrase that. It's been some pretty horrific things we've talked about, but I'm glad we've talked about them with you. That's what I'm trying to say.
What's Dr. Gary's catchphrase? But wait, it gets worse.
But wait,
the show.
It gets worse. The show does. No, well, the show's not going to get worse tonight because you guys are looking at the dog, and I know that's all that really matters for about 60% of you guys. All right, team.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a sub and a higher in mind. All heavily, either this way or that, and will be analyzed by butchery and pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
All right, team. That's it for me. I don't know how I feel about the dog getting more goodbyes than us, though, Cherry. I think maybe Nala's been here for long enough. She's not going to come back for a while. Yeah, that's it for me. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Hopefully have a very special guest in to talk about the length of sentences doing more harm than good. But we'll give you more details on that tomorrow night. So that's it for me, Chlöe.
And that's it for me. Nothing left.
All right, guys, we'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for the next edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.